The prize will be offered next year for the first time following an agreement reached today between the administration and the Newcastle Show Association. Association President Clem Varley said a selection of the entries, including the winning painting, will be exhibited during the four-day show. Newcastle City Administrator Colin Saunders made the announcement at the Newcastle Region Art Gallery today.
We adopted the recommendation as a basis of promotion of the art within Newcastle and to make a fairly substantial prize available to promote the art or the artists to make submissions for this particular prize.
Gallery Director David Bradshaw said the prize will attract artists from all over Australia.
I think it will attract a lot of people and it'll give also people in Newcastle the opportunity of seeing a really wide spectrum of work from all over Australia, because I do think it will attract entries from all around Australia.
The two-year study involved a joint effort by the CSIRO, the State Pollution Control Commission, the Electricity Commission and the Newcastle University. 32 testing sites across the Hunter Valley studied water samples after each significant fall of rain. The sulphur and nitrogen dioxides released from power stations undergo a number of chemical changes to form acid rain. Jeff Thomas from the Newcastle University was a research officer involved with the Hunter study. Electronic control gauges such as this one took rain samples which were analysed in the laboratory to produce some interesting results.
The rain in the Hunter Valley is mildly acidic. If you took rainwater without any pollutants in it, you'd have a value of 5.6 on the pH scale. The rain in the Hunter Valley, the mean average which we found in the study was 5, which is slightly below the 5.6, but it's nowhere near as bad as in the United States.
What implications will the findings of acid rain have across the Hunter Valley?
The soil in the Hunter Valley is mostly calcium-based, and if the acid rain problem did get any worse in the Hunter Valley, the soils would be able to take a slight drop in acidity in the rainfall.
Is there cause for alarm?
No, I don't think there's cause for alarm at the moment. No, I think the rainfall in the Hunter Valley is very good, and the crops and the farmers and the trees and the animals have got nothing to worry about.
An independent report was released today which said that New South Wales would be the most logical site for the testing and trialling of the new Navy submarines. On the surface, that looks good for Newcastle, but there are problems and we'll explain why tonight.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Hello, I'm Janelle Provost. A cheque for $435,000 from the Hunter Valley Rescue Helicopter Appeal was presented to the Rescue Service today, but another appeal was also launched to meet the $100,000 shortfall and the continuing running costs.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Content is out of date. It makes statements which are quite incorrect. I don't think it'll do any good at all to produce poorly prepared data in a ministerial submission. The document, as you can see, has been the subject of quite a few drafts. December 85 was the first draft, and subsequently in January 86 and April 86, and this last draft in August 86. It still contains content which is now out of date. It may have been appropriate at the time, or perhaps reflected a fear of those constructing at the time, but in its current state it is not only factually incorrect but also out of date.
The report, called Towards Rational Funding of Health Services in New South Wales, claims the Hunter region is underfunded to the tune of $30 million a year, that there is a loss of jobs and underfunding of new services about to be introduced. Public relations company Kogan and Associates compiled the report for the Hospitals Association of Greater Newcastle, a group which is made up of hospital executives chaired by
What do
Mr
you
Justice
think? What
Mullane.
new fresh ideas?
This is just inaccurate, inappropriate attempts, I think, to stir strife. This must be the week for strife.
Are you saying that somebody's trying to politicise the situation?
I'm not a political animal. I don't understand the ins and outs of local or state politics. I try and serve the community through the department, so I can't say. But others do think there is a political involvement.
This report was...
A field of 50 readied themselves this afternoon for the first ever event held by the Sailboard division of the Royal Motor Yacht Club. A first prize of $1,000 in the open and funboard production divisions attracted competitors from Sydney and Taree, as well as the local area. It was a fast start for the 20-kilometre marathon in winds of up to 25 knots in the gusts, requiring a lot of hard tacking to the first buoy. Darren Shegnall was first around the buoy in the open class, just edging in before World Cup contender Phil McGain. Bruce Wiley of Belmont took the buoy in the funboard field. Organisers say the strong conditions took their toll, with some of the competitors failing to finish the course. And in just under 1.5 hours, Bruce Wiley took overall line honours from Phil McGain, who followed 10 minutes behind. For both Bruce and Phil, it was their last Australian race before heading to Holland and the next round of the World Cup next week.
Were counting up the votes today at City Hall. The procedure has taken longer than expected, as Electoral Commissioner for New South Wales Ian Dixon explains.
There's been a few problems. Our precise procedures that we use to do these types of counts do involve us in making sure that we've got documents there which enable us then to transact from those documents to figures. Now, in some cases, the documents haven't been there, they need correction. It's a slow process, but it's much better, we feel, to go this way rather than try to hurry the thing and have strike troubles later on, especially in a close poll like this. We need to be accurate.
Well, the votes that have already been counted, the Labor Party holds 38% of the votes, with a possible 5 seats on the council. At this stage, it looks as though the Citizens Group will hold 2 seats, as will the Liberals, the remainder to be filled by 3 independent candidates. Labor Lord Mayoral candidate John McNaughton says he expected a stronger win.
No, you couldn't say it's a landslide. It's what we've been predicting all along. The only difference is that I'd hoped that we would get 6 and we've only got 5. But we've been predicting the 5, so it's exactly spot on our predictions. The only difference is that there are 3 single ones. That's Mr Bell, Mr Tate and Mrs Gumas. And I believe that only 2 of those would get in, and we would pick up the other seat. I didn't know which 2 of the 3.
Lord Mayoral candidate Don Geddes says he'll be waiting on the count of preference votes for the final result. The votes that have been counted now, are you conceding defeat as the next Lord Mayor of Newcastle?
No, when the final vote's counted, that's when I'll make my decision, not before.
Do you think the preference votes, when they're counted, that they could change the situation as it is now?
No, I'm not saying they could, but I would like to see those preference votes before I make up my mind as to what the final result's going to be.
And so tonight, it's just a matter of waiting and counting. The final tally, which will see who the next Lord Mayor of Newcastle will be, won't be known until late tomorrow morning. And it won't be until mid-afternoon before the votes to see who'll sit on the next City Council will be revealed. Melinda Smith. Across Australia this week is Nutrition Week, and the theme is Eat for Pleasure with more fibre and less fat.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Australian nutritionists say the answer to controlled weight is a balanced diet. That means selecting foods from the 5 food groups. A recent study carried out by the National Heart Foundation showed that out of 7,600 Australians surveyed, 35% of women were overweight and 43% of men were also suffering obesity. According to the director of the Nutrition and Dietetics Unit at the Newcastle Royal Hospital, simple adjustments to meals can be made to enforce this year's theme of eating for health and pleasure, more fibre and less fat. Advice which Jackie Crassy recommends.
Now, the reason for that is that to date, the kind of diseases that have plagued Western civilizations are basically those related to coronary heart disease and cancer. Both those have been found in research to be related to the intake of fat and fibre in the diet, and in fact increasing the fibre and reducing the fat. That's where it comes from. It's also related to the fact that a lot of Australians, a lot of North Americans, Western civilizations are overweight.
Although this week is Nutrition Week, the whole month of September has been dedicated to healthier eating. These booklets are now available to the public to help you decide between more fibre and less fat. And for some, it's going to be hard. Okay.
Welcome to the Combo Games!
With that message from the town crier, the big event began. It's the 6th year that budding athletes and sideline spectators have joined together to test their skills in all different sporting spectacles, designed especially for the athletes. Organised by the Central Coast Hospitals and Area Health Services, the visitors have come from one end of the age ladder to the other. The Combo Games are just that. They're bringing together both young and old, abled and disabled bodies for more reasons than one, and nobody knows that better than those taking part. For these 3 young athletes, it's their first visit to the Combo Games, a name which 13-year-old Matthew Law says fittingly describes the annual event.
I think combo means to combine with other disabled children and elderly people and just normal adults that we don't get a chance to meet every day.
And are you going to get out there and get into it today?
Yes, I hope so, and I hope I win something on the way there too.
It's the biggest representation we've sent away from Newcastle League Cycling Club for many years.
Club's going well?
Going terrific. We're getting up to 35 starters every Saturday now, and with the summer months coming on, we envisage that it'll probably be 50 starters, and we may even have to have two different divisions on the Saturday afternoon.
And I know the club is delighted in particular with Grandale Henley. He seems to be something straight out of the box, doesn't he?
He's the best prospect that we've brought out of Newcastle in the league for many, many years. Not only my opinion, but various other keen supporters of the cycling think that he may go on to win Australian Championships and certainly get up to Australian Championship class anyhow.
And according to the seasoned performers, the young fella knows where he's going.
I know Ian Chapman and Bobby Ryan and everyone in Newcastle cycling and beyond knows those fellas. Yeah. Think you can make a success of this track riding too in the pursuit field? Have you thought about that?
Haven't had a go yet, but I'm thinking about getting me on the track.
Right.
Ian, yeah.
Well, road riders like yourself love this pursuit sort of stuff because it's you against the breeze, against the other guy on the other side.
I think it might be a bit easier than road racing too.
Newcastle.
The invitation was extended to the koalas by Chairman of the Britain Australia Bicentennial Committee, Sir Peter Gadsden. The trip is planned for July next year, and fundraising has begun to try to raise the $400,000 needed. It was also announced by the Administrator, Colin Saunders, today that Newcastle is to form a sister city relationship with its namesake in England, Newcastle on Tyne. Sir Peter Gadsden applauds the move and says the koalas' visit next year will set the scene for the bicentenary celebrations in England. What does the Newcastle on Tyne committee have planned?
They plan next year an Australia week, and the highlight of that week will be a banquet in Newcastle upon Tyne.
And the marching koalas will be there?
Yes, they'll be in Newcastle then, during the Australia week.
It's the first time the championships have been held in the Hunter region, and the competition has attracted a steady stream of avid billiards enthusiasts since it began on Monday. 34 of the nation's best players have entered, some from as far away as Tasmania and Western Australia. Amongst them is the current Australian champion, 76-year-old Bob Marshall from Western Australia. In a remarkable career, he has won the title 20 times and the world title 4 times. Age, it seems, matters little in this game. Skill, subtlety and experience are what counts. For that reason, Bob is favoured to win yet another title. The semi-finals will be played on Friday night and Saturday, with the final beginning on Saturday night and concluding on Sunday. Matthew Harding works on his unusual task in the normal suburban surroundings of a garage at his parents' home in Rowan Terrace. At the age of 22, Matthew was a carpenter by trade and has been drawing and painting for most of his life. His experience as a sculptor is more limited, but that didn't prevent him from taking on the challenge of carving the figurehead. Working from historical drawings of the English monarch, Matthew created a rough clay model of the figurehead and then drew detailed plans of the real thing. Using rare Australian red cedar because of its fine grain, Matthew built up a carving block by laminating together 12 pieces. The broad work is done with a chainsaw, but the details are chiselled out just the way the masters would have done centuries ago. Willie, as Matthew calls it, has already taken 6 months of his spare time, and it won't be finished until early next year. But when the William IV sails in 1988, Matthew's figurehead will lead the way.
I shall feel proud, yes. Happy to know that I've done it. Perhaps I'll get commissioned to do some more.
Prime Minister Hawke plans to bring business, union and government leaders together next Wednesday to discuss in detail work and management practices to increase productivity. So-called work practices have been brought into sharp focus with disputes like Rogue River and the emergence of the New Right as a political group.
How do you think the issue of work practices has reared its head?
It's obviously reared its head because of the attitudes of the New Right and their determination not to promote work changes with the work practices, but to pursue the legal system to really bring down the arbitration system as we know it today.
There's been a lot of change to work practices at BHP, particularly since 1982, where we faced closure of the plant. The workers decided that they were prepared to move with change, and because there has been substantial work practice changes, you now have a plant there employing some 6,000 people. An example was in the steelmaking department and the blast furnace, more particularly in the blast furnace, where we had an arbitrated decision in 1976 about a set casting practice on the blast furnace floor. The company was able to demonstrate last year that this casting practice was restrictive, and for it to change could have meant greater productivity. The men in fact did agree to change, and it has increased the productivity of the plant substantially so.
The Prime Minister also announced a freeing up on controls on coal exports to improve the competitiveness of the coal industry on the international market. And there's been some suggestion that if the plan goes through to drop coal prices, jobs could be lost.
Weighing just 150 grams, this solid-state, high-performance microchip-centred contraption is in fact a tiny camera. Joined onto an arthroscope probe, the device is able to be inserted into the damaged muscles and ligaments of the body.
And look at very fine detail, so everything you look at is magnified 20 times.
The image projected appears 20 times that of its original size, as in this microscopic look inside an orange. The camera alone is worth $18,000. The whole unit is estimated at more than $30,000. Arthroscopy, the procedure which removes broken cartilages, has been performed before only with the aid of the probe. Now the Underfunding hospital is performing surgery which dramatically reduces the post-operative procedures. In fact, local surgeons are the first in Australia to use this technology. The spokesman for the company What's it going to mean for sportsmen now who may injure themselves and be out of play for weeks on end?
The type of surgery that this is performed with is called arthroscopy, performed by very skilled orthopaedic surgeons who have had years of training in knee reconstruction and removing torn cartilage. It simply means that sports people today, whether they be professional sports people or active, if you like, or tennis players, recreation sports people, can have their knees repaired by the surgeons and be back on the track in a fairly short space of time. Repaired by the surgeons and be back on the track in a fairly short space of time.